So there's been a lot of talk lately about Bitcoin and why it's not really correcting, especially with all the global tension. We've got a major war brewing between Israel and Iran, and yet Bitcoin's holding strong. What do you think is going on?
Yeah, it's pretty wild, right? I think a lot of people are scratching their heads about it. Traditionally, you'd expect Bitcoin to take a hit when there's global instability. But it seems like Bitcoin's doing the opposite. It's holding its ground. In fact, it's becoming even more bullish. Why do you think that is?
Well, first of all, Bitcoin isn't tied to any country or government. It's decentralized. So when global markets are shaky, it's actually a safe haven for people who are losing faith in traditional fiat currencies. Like the US dollar, for example.
Exactly. The US is facing a lot of issues with inflation, and the Federal Reserve's moves, like printing massive amounts of money, just aren't sustainable in the long run. I mean, even big names like Paul Tudor Jones are predicting a 10% slump for the dollar in the coming year. That's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, and you've got to wonder, with all this inflation and government debt, how much longer can people trust the dollar? Countries are moving away from it. They're looking for alternatives, like Bitcoin and gold. It's becoming clear that the US dollar isn't what it used to be.
And it's not just the dollar. There's also the whole problem with the US's debt. We're talking about the government spending a huge portion of its revenue just to pay interest on that debt. It's unsustainable and it's putting more pressure on the economy. When you add tariffs and global trade issues, things are looking pretty rough.
Exactly. And yet, Bitcoin's appeal keeps growing. Because it's a deflationary asset with a fixed supply of 21 million coins, it offers an alternative to the inflationary fiat system. It's like a lifeboat in a sinking ship.
That's a good way to put it. Plus, when long term holders are adding to their Bitcoin stash, like that 880,000 Bitcoin added just last month, it signals a lot of confidence in the future. People aren't just holding because of price speculation, they're holding because they believe in the long term value of Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's huge. It's not just about short-term gains. This is about believing in a financial system that's free from the whims of central banks and politicians. It's a system that's not going to inflate away your savings overnight.
It really puts into perspective how fragile the current financial system is. And yet, the people who understand Bitcoin's potential, the ones who've been in the space long enough, they're still holding strong. When you understand why Bitcoin exists, it's much easier to weather these ups and downs.
Absolutely. And even when we see dips like that 35% drop we had a while ago, the people who really understand Bitcoin just ride it out. It's almost like they know what's coming next. It's all about staying educated and keeping the long-term vision.
Right? And it's kind of funny how people who are still new to crypto, like my family, they just don't get it. They make fun of me for talking about Bitcoin. But once you really dive deep into this space and see what it's doing, it's hard not to get bullish.
Yeah, I can relate. My family does the same. But hey, it's their loss, right? In the end, it's about understanding what's going on behind the scenes. Once you get the big picture, Bitcoin makes a lot of sense, especially in times like these.
Definitely. So, if you're listening and still on the fence about Bitcoin, it might be time to dig deeper, learn about the technology, the philosophy, and how it's changing the world of finance. Trust me, once you do, you'll see exactly why it's holding up so well during all this chaos.